Welcome to the Miracle You, guiding you on the journey towards finding passion and purpose and how to discover, create, and live a life by your design. Whether your success has been plentiful or your missed opportunities have been overwhelming, we can help you become a more empowered, masterful person and show you how to share your gift with the world. It's time to inspire change from within with the host of the Miracle You, Vince Kramer.
Hello, imagination. I'm Vince Kramer, your host, and welcome to the Miracle You, where you learn about the magic of living your life by finding the example in real life. I've shared with you many times how important I feel it is to understand how we create. And from time to time, I've talked about the importance of knowing what you want. It's very interesting when you ask most people what they want, they share with you what they don't want. And when you are concentrating on or you thinking about what you don't want in your life, two things happen. One, physiologically, your brain doesn't know how to separate what you don't want and what you do want. And when I say that, the brain just doesn't understand don't. So when you're thinking about, when you're concentrating on the thing that you don't want, that is where your thoughts are. And we create with thoughts and feelings, like I shared. So in the brain, there's a miscommunication. But then also, if your thoughts are based on the things that you don't want, there's a universal communication problem that you have. The electromagnetic waves of your thought are speaking to the universe, who's there conspiring to help you get what it is that you're thinking about. And in that miscommunication, you attract what you don't want into your life. So it's really important to understand what you want, make it as specific as possible so there's no doubt what you're going to be attracting into your life, and then keep your thoughts and feelings in alignment with what you want so you attract it into your life. I'm with Jeff Smith today. Jeff's affectionately known as the KPI guy because he's written 7 international #1 best-selling books on key performance indicators and business management, and is on record as the most successful author in history on the subject. Throughout his career, he's worked with and is trusted by royal families, governments of different countries, and senior executives in the largest companies in the world. Jeff is particularly admired in the international business arena because he has the amazing ability to explain complex business strategies into jargon-busting plain English that everyone understands, even where English is not the first language. Jeff Smith, are you ready to share the miracle of you with the imagination?
Wow. I'm ready, Vince. Let's go for it.
Isn't it amazing when you hear how wonderful you are in a bio and it's like, are they really talking about me?
I think it's more terrifying than wonderful.
Oh, I'm expected to be all of that.
Yeah.
Jeff, could you share with us a little bit more about what you do with these businesses, with the royal families, and how you're making a difference in the world?
Sure. I can't share anything about royal families because you can understand why. I'm just not allowed to. But what do I do? Where do I do it? How did I get into it? How do people benefit from it over the years? Oh, wow. How far should we go back? I used to be, I'll give you the shortened version. I used to be a mechanical and electrical electrician. And I'm sharing this with you because maybe people listening have been in a career and thinking, this is just not for me. What do I do about it? And at my core, I believe we all have a purpose. And I like to observe things going on. And I like to observe where people have found their purpose, where they're searching for a purpose and what drives them to do things. We might say it's a calling. It could be all kinds of things. It fascinates me. So when I was at school, here's an interesting thing. I failed at maths. I failed at English, and then wrote the best-selling book in the world on mathematics. It's like, how on earth does that happen? You know, and I look back now and I find my own journey fascinating. So I'll share the potted version with you. I left school. I became a mechanical electrical engineer. I loved it. The problem was it doesn't pay very well. I mean, I'm going back now to the 1970s. So I'm a similar age to self, Vince. And then I was earning about $10 a week. It just wasn't much. Well, during this time, in parallel, I was playing keyboards. And I played keyboards for my mum and dad's 25th wedding anniversary, just for that special waltz, you know. So I went to the band and I said, "You going to play the anniversary waltz?" They said, yeah. And I said, "Is it okay if I play it?" And I'm about 17 years old, something like that. And they went, "Really?" I said, "Yes, please." And it took me all my courage to do that, Vince, because I was really quiet. So they said, "Okay, we'll have a break. Then after the break, we'll call your mum and dad onto the floor. And then we'll call you from behind the curtain as this big, way surprise, you play the music for them," which we did. So it was all very, very emotional. So my mum and dad are there holding each other and dancing. And because their son is playing for them, they're crying, I'm crying. And it was beautiful. But what happened, I came off the stage and a guy came over to me and he said, "How old are you?" I said, 17. He went, "You're amazing. You're a better keyboard player than the guy in the band." I went, "Thank you very much. I appreciate that." He said, "I'd like you to come and work for me. I'm a music agent. I'll give you some gigs." And I said, "You know, I play music because I enjoy it. I'd never envisaged playing for money." And he said, no, come on." He said, you could do real well." Now, bear in mind, Vince, I was earning $10 a week. He said, "I'll give you 3 gigs per week. And for one night, I'll pay you $40. It's like, what? $40 times 3 versus $10, you know? Yeah, I think I'll become a professional musician now. So I did. That's what I did. So my dad said, "Well, hang on a moment. Finish off what you're doing in the engineering world. Get your papers, get qualified. It's always something to fall back on." Yeah. I'm okay. So I did. Then I became a professional musician. So there's one career change. I became a professional musician, and this was before the days of karaoke. There were no backing tracks. CD had not yet been invented. So if someone in cabaret wanted to sing on stage, they needed a live musician. And that was me. That's what I did. But I fell out of love with it. So I got to 23 years old. So here I am again in another career that, and I think this is where most people fall. I was good at it. I got paid very well for it, but it wasn't my passion. And I was unfulfilled. And I did not know what to do. I'm 23 years old at this stage, still living with my parents, had a fabulous relationship with my parents. And I said to my dad, "I don't want to do this anymore. I'd just been offered a cruise liner gig, and you go away for 16 weeks. Then you come back, and I'm like, I'm working and everybody else is having a good time. And on my time off, everybody else is asleep. It's a bit like being an airline pilot, Vince." So I thought, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. So I quit. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I'd amassed some money, so there was no absolute urgency. But what I did then, I went into the automotive industry and started selling cars at the local car dealership. Did very well. After a couple of years, became a sales manager. Did very well. After a couple of years, became dealer principal. Then became a director board director, and then I was running 10 big dealerships. And what happens when you're running one business and you're there at the one business, you always have visibility pretty much of what's going on. But when you're running 10 businesses, you can't be in 10 locations at the same time. So the bit of magic that came to me, although I didn't realize it at the time, was this thing called KPI, key performance indicators. So I developed some systems that enabled me to view all of these 10 businesses at the end of each day. So I used to visualize it like spinning plates, and I wanted to go to the right business at the right time to shake that stick and keep the plate spinning. And for me, it was the creation of key performance indicators. Vince, at the time, I thought everybody used key performance indicators. In fact, they didn't. And I won lots of awards, top guy, and won all the prizes and accolades, but no one knew how I did it, which surprised me. So then I was approached by a consultancy company, and they said, how would you like to teach other people how to do what you do? And I think, I would love that more than anything else. So that's what I did. And then I worked for manufacturers and created the approved used vehicle program. So it started in the UK, goes across Europe, now across USA, things like that. So if you go to a new car dealership and you see the approved used vehicles, I'm the guy that created that concept back quite a few years ago. Then what happened? I had this idea to write a book called The KPI Book, strangely enough, because I wanted to give back to an industry that had looked after me very well, because I'd been in the industry some 15 or 16 years at this stage. And I knew people needed this stuff, but they didn't know that it existed or how to use it properly. So I went to the managing director of this company. I said, I've got an idea for a book and I'd like to write it. And he said, no, it's a dumb idea. That'll never work. Nobody will buy that book. We're not interested. So shelve it, go think of something else. So a long story short, shortly after that time, I left this organization and set up my own company. This was 1999. And this book was just sitting with me. The idea of this book was sitting in me. And I was blessed with this gift of understanding how business works, key performance indicators, getting you to reach your goals in the fastest possible time in a business context. And I'm thinking, I've been blessed with this gift. I have to find a way to share it. And writing a book, and I had no clue how to do it at the time. I thought writing a book would be one way to do it. So I wrote the book. It took me 1 year. I thought the market, bear in mind I live in the UK, I thought the market would be about 5,000. And if I could tap into 20% of that and 1,000 books, change the lives of 1,000 people, that would be worthy, right? So that was my motivation to do it. So I went on and did it. Now the book is, as you said in the bio, I'm on record of as the most successful author of all time in history on the subject of key performance indicators and business strategy, which is amazing, really amazing. So does that answer your question? That kind of brings us to where we are now. Yeah,
it does. And as I explained before we started recording today, that I really want to know what it was that pushed you into what. Did you have a wake-up call? Did you have a calling that this is what I'm here to do, this is the difference that I'm meant to make in the world?
Yeah, it happened a couple of times. The first one was when the guy said, I'll pay you $40 a night. That was a good wake-up call. So that was money driven. That's although it was okay at the time, it's easy for me to say that's never the right thing to do. It isn't, but I realize sometimes we have to do. So that was the first catalyst that changed. But you remember when I said I got to 23 years old And I got to be this musician, and I was a very accomplished musician, but I didn't want to do it anymore. I was lying in bed. One morning, I woke up. You know when you're thinking, you have this voice in your head? I don't know whose voice that is, probably mine. I don't know. We'll go there another day, subject for another interview. But this voice in my head said, if it is to be, it's up to me. And I wasn't thinking it. This voice came. Sounds weird, right? And I sat up and I realized, here I am at 23 years old, and I've been drifting. I've just gone along with what the world handed out to me. It was an epiphany, Vince. It was a kick in the ass. It was a real wake-up call. And I was thinking, if I really want to do something, there's only me who's going to make it happen. So you're either working on your own goals or you're helping somebody else to achieve theirs. So that was the first wake-up call. And I started studying at that stage, how do successful people become successful? And I interviewed 325 millionaires, multimillionaires, 1 or 2 billionaires, some very famous people. And what I found is they all have 11 things in common. Whether they knew it or not, every person that I interviewed did the same 11 things, which was quite fascinating. Where purpose comes into it, which I spoke about earlier, I think that's quite important. Is it a calling? Sometimes you can have a purpose and you might not think it. Like for me, how can I write a book having failed at math and English? Never written a book, It was a challenge that was like, really? But it was the right thing to do. I've written 7 books now, and writing books is not my thing. I do it because I've been blessed with this gift of understanding how business works and how to accelerate stuff quicker. And I view it honestly as a burden. Writing books is a burden. I've been blessed with this gift, so it's one of the things I do to give back.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. There's so many things that you said there that I would like to look at and talk about, but I'm going to put you on a spot because
sure,
there is no doubt in my mind with the research I've done and what you've shared with us so far that you have made so many differences in the world, and especially for businesses, governments. But let me ask you, how can people use key performance indicators for themselves individually?
Okay, we already do. We use them all day, every day. So key performance indicators. What is a key performance indicator? Imagine sitting in your car. Maybe someone's listening to this podcast now and driving their car. They'll be looking down at the dashboard. That's a KPI dashboard. It's an instrument of information that says, here's where you are now, here's where you want to be, and here's all the information you need to get there. Whether that's satellite navigation, whether it's if you're going on a journey of 500 miles, you work out how much fuel you need, you look at your fuel gauge, have you got enough for the journey? Your fuel gauge is a key performance indicator. So key performance indicators are all around us all of the time. They're everywhere, but most people only generally recognize them for business. So let me come back to answer your question now. How can anyone use key performance indicators to help themselves accelerate their desires, whatever those desires might be? Well, the first thing, as I said a little earlier, all successful people do these 11 things in common. Step 1 is the most difficult, and 98% of people can't do it. And step 1 is, I know you're going to ask me, Vince, so I'll tell you now. Step 1 is, what do you want? And most people can't answer that. But here's the thing. Successful people answer that question with absolute clarity and absolute specificity, where people who are less successful don't. Let me give you an example. Here's a generalization. And it's like, what do you want? People say, oh, Jeff, more money. And I'll put my hand in my pocket, give them $1 bill. And I say, there you go, your dreams are fulfilled. And I go, no, you know I don't mean that. And I said, no, I don't know what you mean. You said more money. I gave you $1. You got more money. Now, the difference, the absolute difference with successful people, they would say, okay, I'd like $1 million. And I'd like to see that $1 million manifested, printed on my bank statement on the 30th of June, 2023 at noon. That's the difference. So successful people know exactly what they want. The other thing that happens as well, we become what we think about, whether we want it or not. That sounds weird, right? Let me give you an example. Playing golf. You don't need to play golf to understand this. You imagine a golfer on the 14th tee. To the one side of the tee is a big lake. The amateur golfer will address the ball and they'll think, I better not go in the lake. You're smiling, Vince. You've obviously done this. So I better not go in the lake. So they hit the ball, it slices, it goes in the lake, and then they say, I knew that was going to happen. Now, there's lots of reasons that will happen. The professional golfer, the lake isn't there. They're just focusing on where they want to be. They never focus on what they don't want. They focus on what they do want. And this is what happens in life. Life is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So even if you focus on what I don't want, the brain cannot understand a negative connotation. Let me give you an example. Google works exactly the same way here. You ready? Do not think of a red car. What happens? You have to think of a red car. Now, the reason this happens is because your brain doesn't come back to you, nor does Google. You try it on Google, it's just the same. If you type into Google, do not show me a red car, enter, up will come, page is full of red cars. Your Google and your brain works the same way. They don't have the ability to come back to you and say, okay, you don't want a red car. What do you want instead? It doesn't have that capability. So what it does, it knocks out the negative connotation, I do not want, and it gives you a red car because that's the only content in your thought. And that's why when you think about stuff that you don't want, it happens to you because your subconscious doesn't have the ability to come back to you and say, okay, what do you want instead? So one of the defining things with successful people, they really focus on what they absolutely want. And if you look at all key performance indicators, they all work the same way. None of them are focused on, I don't want this, so let's have a key performance indicator for it. It doesn't exist. It's all about, here's where I am, here's where I want to be.
You need an origin and you need a destination for
sure,
for everything to work there. And as you shared, you know, we create with our thoughts and feelings. Energetically, quantum physics tells us that. So and your explanation of, you know, the brain doesn't understand do not. The brain only understands the thought itself. And when you're thinking of, I don't want a red car, the red car is in your perception. So it's there. So great explanation. It's so powerful in that. What of the 11 steps or of the 11 things that these people have in common, what are the top two that you think are the driving force?
Number one is essential. You have to know what you want. Now, you've spoken about having a calling, having a purpose. What is the driver? successful people achieve stuff, and it's not something that they'd like to have. It's a burning desire. It consumes them the whole time. So if you have something that consumes you, get some clarity on where you are, where you want to be, and focus on what you want. Don't think, I don't want this. I hope this doesn't happen. I hope that doesn't happen. It's just focusing on what you want. So a couple of steps, know what you want. I'm going to give you a third one, Vince, because this is also important. This is a key component. Have the right support. You need the right people around you. And this can be family, it can be friends. You know, I was talking to someone a couple of weeks ago. I said, you know, if you want to be a millionaire, you know what you need to do? You need to mix with millionaires. If you want COVID, you know what to do? Go mix with someone who has COVID. And they go, wow, that really makes sense. And I said, no matter what you want in your life, surround yourself with the people who've already done it or can support you on your journey. Because if you're with a group of friends or your family, like my managing director, he said, that book will never work. But I did it anyway. I knew I could not have him in my life for that book to work. So I had to leave and go. And now he's seen the book and his company is no longer. And he's like, yeah, I should have listened to you. Yep, too late.
You know, Jeff, I'm hearing in my head right now that voice that you were talking about earlier, and I don't know why, because it doesn't seem to fit with the flow. But I have to ask you, because I think you're going to be able to give an answer that will help many people. We feel like we have an obligation to people around us, or you know, we can't leave them behind. When you say surround yourself with people that support you, how do we let go of the people that don't?
This is a tough one for me to answer because I lost family because of this. And I did not choose to lose family. What happened, I have beautiful mum and dad. They've both passed on now. But I also had an older brother, and we were like chalk and cheese. He's also passed on now. But what happened, as we were growing up, we just took different paths in our lives. And he's the kind of guy that would earn $10 and spend 12, where I'm the kind of guy that would earn $10, get some left over, save it, invest, go again. So we're completely different people. So when we got to be adults, I did quite well, bought a nice home. My brother visited me at the new home, and instead of being really proud, shaking my hand and giving me congratulations, it was the opposite effect. He became jealous, you know, and I thought that was really strange. But Vince, what also happened, my circle of friends now is completely different to the circle of friends I had then. When you start earning money, people perceive you differently. When you become successful, people perceive you differently. So you can either stay with them and not fulfill your goals, or you can move ahead. And then it's up to them, Vince. Do they come with you, or do they stay behind? And sometimes it's really painful. My brother chose not to come with me. We didn't speak for a while. Friends, you know, we'd go for a meal and they'd just all be expecting me to pay. I'm just like, what's that about? You know, so it's like, and your lives just grow apart. Family, that's a tricky one. So probably a subject for a psychologist to answer, someone better than me. So I'm fortunate. I have a beautiful wife. We've been married 36 years. She understands how I think. I understand how she thinks. And we've manifested throughout our lives. 2 daughters, they've also been brought up the same way. They get it too. Really, outside of that, it's up to other people whether they join on our journey or not. I don't think it's for me to decide what they do. But if they choose not to come, then that's their choice. Do we feel obligated? Yeah. But then you have to think, well, why? Because when we're born with 2 fears. That's the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. And here's my point. Everything else in your life is conditioned. So where's this obligation coming from?
So many of us believe that we have to fulfill others' needs to be worthy or to be loved or to be accepted. So I think that was a great share and very helpful for people to look at and say, all I can do is be my best. All I can do is love. All I can do is care. And if somebody wants to fall off, I just have to allow them to fall off. So a great answer. Believe it or not, Jeff, we're at the end of our time, and I want to, you've already shared so many great things, but is there one more thing that you would like people to take away from this and not forget?
Sure. We've spoken about key performance indicators, and they are everywhere in our lives. You'll start looking around and you'll see them now. Measurements are different things. So we live in a world where everything is being measured. Here's my message. Take care to measure the right things in the right way.
Very, very powerful. Thank you so much. How can people get in touch with you and learn more about what you're doing?
Sure. My website is jeff-smith.com. So that's Jeff, jeff-smith.com. And what I also do as well, some people say, oh, what's the second step? Or can I just have a quick chat with you? Yeah, sure. So there's a facility on the website, jeff-smith.com/chat. So we can have a chat on Zoom like this and just hang out for 10 or 15 minutes and get some clarity on what you want, where you want to go.
Well, how generous. Everybody needs to take advantage of an opportunity to chat with Jeff, learn how you could use KPI to change your life, and maybe even he can help you really fine-tune what it is that you want. Jeff, thank you so much. I'll make sure that all that information is available on your show page. Everybody just go to themiracleu.com, look for Jeff's show page. That information will be available. Thank you so much for being with us today. I appreciate you sharing your story. I appreciate you sharing your heart, because it's so obvious that your heart is in everything that you do. And this is truly a passion for you. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Vince. I really appreciate that. I'm touched. And one day I'm going to come back and interview you.
Awesome. I'm here for you. On behalf of Mary, my wife and business partner, the entire team here at Imagine Miracles, we wish each and every one of you a miracle day.
You've completed this episode of The Miracle You, but we have plenty more to help you discover your own personal passion and purpose. Head over to themiracleu.com for free resources to assist you on your journey, as well as register for our free webinar, Discover Your Miracle Life, 3 Mind Awakening Steps Toward Your Unique Purpose, or apply for a one-on-one Your Life, Your Way breakthrough session and discover your next best step on your journey. All available exclusively on our website. That's themiracleu.com. We look forward to sharing more experiences of passion, purpose, and life by design next time, right here on The Miracle You.